Optimizing feed conversion, the BinSentry advantage for swine and poultry producers. Welcome to Swine Web and Poultry Producer. Today we have Ben Allen, CEO of BinSentry, and Jim Moody, COO of the Hanor Company. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Today, we're going to dive into the crucial topic of feed conversion ratio, FCR, explore groundbreaking research, and discuss how innovative technology like BinSentry is revolutionizing feed management for swine and poultry producers. And I'm going to do a bit of an intro to our great guest today. Ben Allen leads BinSentry, a company that monitors tens of thousands of feed grain bins daily for some of the largest agricultural businesses across North America. With nearly 30 years of experience in both agriculture and technology, two of his greatest passions, Ben is committed to providing customers with a strong operational advantage. It's no surprise that under his leadership, BinSentry has never lost a customer. Jim Moody brings 45 years of expertise in the swine industry, including the past 24 years with Hanor, where he oversees wean-to-market production and marketing. Prior to this, Jim managed contract multiplication at PIC with a keen focus on leveraging technology to drive Hanor's continuous improvement. Jim has been a driving force in modernizing their operations and setting new industry benchmarks. Let's get started, guys.
Sure.
So, FCR Challenges, Jim, I want to start with you. Can you explain why feed conversion ratio is such a critical metric for both swine and poultry producers and how it directly impacts profitability?
Sure, Jim. Feed is the biggest cost in producing pigs nowadays. It accounts for about 60 to 70% of the total cost of the pig. 1 point of feed conversion is worth approximately 30 cents a head. And we produce 2 million pigs a year. So 1 point across our entire system's worth $600,000. And there's two key components to feed conversion. One is the performance of the pig and how that drives feed conversion. And the second piece is managing feeder adjustments, end-of-turn feed, and how we manage that feed on the side. Both are key components in improving or driving feed conversion.
So, Ben, do you have any additional insights on how technology is helping address these challenges?
Well, I can say that our customers across North America care very deeply about feed conversion. As Jim said, it's the most expensive part of raising animals. It is one of the most important metrics when it comes to the profitability of an animal production operation. And people are usually fighting for fractions of a point. They actively monitor it, work against it, work towards the improvement. It is one of the primary measures of success in the animal business.
So I was really intrigued with the case study that you guys launched. We published it on Swine Web. People are going to see it in our newsletter. So specifically for this case study, Jim, you monitored 234,000 pigs across 195 barns. What were the most surprising or impactful things or findings regarding how out-of-feed hours influenced FCR?
Sure. When we started this pilot with BinSentry, one of the most difficult things on implementing technology is actually trying to find proof of value. And so we set this pilot up to set that out. And so basically what we did was we identified that there was two key pieces. One was groups that had out-of-feed events for 24 hours or more, and groups that did not. So we're able to split that up into those two groups, look at the performance of those pigs. And what we found was the groups that had 24-hour or longer feed interruptions, we lost 7 points in feed conversion. And that was a huge finding. We did not see much of a difference in mortality, but we know when pigs are out of feed, mortality and other types of problems, connected devices goes up. So we anticipate as we get more data, we should be able to tease out some differences there as well.
So you're continuing to look for more data. Now, Ben, is there anything you can expand on these findings and the technology improvements or strategies?
Well, our work with Hanor, I think it's important to note that it covered a little over 15 months. So we wanted to look throughout the seasons. There is a natural seasonality for most barns as the weather changes. We wanted to see that the studies that we were doing and the information that we were seeing stretched across just a short-term time frame. And so we looked at 15 months, as you said, nearly 250,000 head of hogs in 195 groups. And it's the biggest study we've done in our history. And that type of data set led to some pretty interesting findings. The issues that Jim has talked about and kind of where they come from, which we'll talk about in a second, I believe. But the size of the study was unique for us. It was at scale.
So Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot again. The discovery of slide management issues. So your research with BinSentry revealed that 80% of out-of-feed events are due to slide management errors rather than empty feed bins. So how did this insight come about, and what does it mean for producers?
Yeah, when we talk about feed outages in the industry, we typically mean that we ran out of feed at the barn. And that's obviously a no-no. Everybody works really hard in the business to have feed on site, and that takes proper ordering and inventory tracking and logistics. There's a lot of work in the supply chain to make sure the feed is where it needs to be. And when it's not there, that gets reported. People tend to jump up and down with some excitement about that because they know that you need to be feeding these animals and taking great care of them. What we didn't know before the study was that most of the outages aren't from running out of feed. In a frustrating type of way, it's from not opening or closing slides in a proper way at the barns. Most barns, not all, but most barns have a tandem feed bin set up, 2 bins to a barn. And the workers at the barn or the farmers at the barn can't see through that metal bin any more magically than anybody else can. So if one runs out, there's no flashing red light that says open the other bin. And it goes unreported because there's no tracking mechanism for it. And so through this work, we recognize that the vast majority of outage hours is due to not knowing to run over and open a slide and turn on the feed, that everybody's done the hard work to get to the barn in the first place. And that's brand new in the industry, quite frankly. FCR is the metric that we started this talk with, and the outage information that everybody tracks and works really hard to minimize. Those two numbers have never had a mathematical correlation. And that's always confused everybody. When you say, why is that? Everybody goes, I don't know. Feeding these animals should be the most important part of tracking FCR. We don't know why those two numbers don't line up. But what we figured out through this large study was those two numbers don't line up because we were missing the biggest category of outage hours that's due to slide management at the farm, which is a labor issue. It's how do we help them see something that's really difficult to see? But the fact that it was so much more prevalent than the outages that we actually track was fairly mind-blowing to me anyway.
One more thing on this, Ben. How does this represent an opportunity for operational improvement?
Well, it's a great question. It's one thing to have the data. It's another thing to actually do something with it. Knowing this challenge is out there doesn't change anybody's P&L. It doesn't change the way we act. We've got to be able to not only know the data, but we need to know it in a timely manner. And then we need to let the people that have to do something with that notification know in a timely manner, and they've got to be able to act on it. That knowing the data, having the right data all the way through to reacting to the data, that's the hard part, quite frankly. But that's where the value is. Jim talked about at the beginning, finding value in technology is a challenge, usually because it's hard to really operationalize your learnings. It's not enough to know something's hard. You have to be able to act on it and fix it. And that's, that's really where we come in and can impact this issue. If we know that the slide management is a problem, we can see slide management is a challenge, then we've got to be able to deal with the operators that are out there to help them fix it in real time. Then you get the value. That's where the value comes from. That's where the impact of the operation and the animal health comes from.
Great insight, Ben. Now, Jim, from Hanor's perspective, why is addressing slide management critical for producers?
Well, Jim, anytime pigs are out of feed, it's a problem, right? And we initially thought it was empty feed bins was a key driver, but we found there's a secondary function with slide management. So that's just another issue that we've got to address to reduce out of feed events in the barn. The important piece is that we can now measure it, and once we're able to measure it, we can improve it.
So when we talk about the financial impact of reducing out of feed events, I think that's an important thing we need to address. So Jim, can you share more about the financial impact of reducing out of feed hours on a pre-barn basis as demonstrated in the study completed?
Sure. When you look at, we found 50% of our pigs had a feed interruption. With closeout performance, we're able to tie back to BinSentry's data. We determined there was a 7-point reduction in feed conversion. And so you think back earlier, I said 1 point of feed conversion is worth 30 cents a head. So you take that times 7 on the pigs that run out of feed, that's $2.10 a head times half our pigs, which is 1 million pigs produced a year. That's just over $2 million. So it has a huge financial implication that we're able to get this corrected.
So Ben, what are your thoughts on this and how this data can drive actionable changes across the industry?
Yeah, we have discovered together in this case study that there is the biggest category of feed outage goes untracked at most animal operations across the globe. And so tracking it is the first, knowing about it's the first step, tracking it maybe is the second step, and then acting on it and operationalizing those savings is really how you deliver the P&L impact, improving the animal health and delivering the P&L impact. And first of all, most of the world has to understand that the biggest problem with outages is completely unreported in their operations, and it's due to slide management. Like they got to wrap their head around that first. As soon as they wrap their head around that they've got a big source of outages that goes unreported, they've got to decide what to do with it. But step number 2 is immediately, well, we've got to be able to see it. If it's a real challenge for the operation, we've got to be able to see it. And then they can drive through in their operational setup and their changes, how they support actually acting on that data. But most of the industry is blind to this. And it is a step function change in FCR. It is the single biggest improvement you can make quickly in FCR that I'm aware of in the industry. People spend a lot of time and effort in genetics and in best practices, in vet med services and nutrition services, all in the service of animal health and reducing FCR. I'm not aware of another category where you could have a conversation about 7 points. And that's because there's a large category, a challenge that's gone unreported, and people have to, people need to know about that. That's really important. If we could take 7 points of FCR out of the global industry, we're all more sustainable, we're all more profitable, and we're raising healthier animals. That's something that's worth talking about.
And that's why we're here today. It's one thing to capture data, it's another to present it in a way that drives action and operational change. So, Ben, the BinSentry sensors and software provide real-time alerts for potential out-of-feed issues. Can you explain how the back-end platform, it not only captures the data, but it also presents it in a way that drives actionable decisions and operational change?
Yeah, well, I'll probably get a little tech geeky here for you, if you'll forgive me on that one. We spend a lot of time and money in R&D on having the most accurate sensors. The sensors provide a data feed for us. I call it a data pipe. What's going on in that feed bin? We watch animal feed consumption at the point of consumption. That's an important data pipe. It's not enough on its own. If we just handed that to companies, our customers, it'd be hard for them to do much with it in most cases. But we've gone all the way through, and our work with Hanor has been really key to helping further our tech here, to not only seeing that data, recognizing problems, quantifying those problems. And we're working now and testing brand new stuff with Hanor where we can text individual operators out at the barn, farmers and workers out at the barns, that there's a problem that needs work right now. And that's where it comes together. You have to go all the way through to do something right now. And we understand what to do because that's the action that actually creates the value and the benefit. Uh, if you can't do that, the sensors are worthless, quite frankly. Nobody wants a data stream. People want a prompt to action to do the best they can in real time every day. And we spend a lot of time and money working with our customers to make sure that they can internalize that operational nudge and change. And Jim's the COO at Hanor. He's an operational ninja compared to me, and they're working with them and their leadership has really been eye-opening. It helps us, support them. They're the ones that have to make the operational change. It's our job to make that as easy as possible.
So, Jim, in your experience on the producer side, what specific outcomes do producers care most about when it comes to leveraging this kind of technology?
I want to reiterate a couple things that Ben said, but there's two key points. One is, our team, our operations team has to be able to take the data and drive it into action. Just for example, we have 1,500 feed bins, and we have a feed team that comes in and helps make certain feeds being ordered correctly for those bins. Slides are being managed correctly. They've got to be able to quickly and easily get to where the problem spots are and get them identified. The second piece that we didn't think about, but we found as we got into this, our caretakers out in the facilities, we've all given them access to BinSentry so they can easily get on their phones, look at the levels of their feed bins, and before they even go to the site this morning, identify what bins do they need to change slides over, what feed needs to be ordered. That was a very manual process before. The only way they knew that is going to the site, taking feed bin inventories and knowing what they need to do. So not only is it making our lives easier, but it should be making our caretakers' lives easier. And that's a key to adapting any new technology.
So we've got two great ag tech guys here today. So with applying technology, can you use that to improve other aspects of livestock production? So I'm going to roll this question into Jim. What role do you envision for technology like BinSentry and transforming other practices such as like temperature management, water quality, and pig care? What advancements can producers expect in the coming years?
Well, simply put, those are the four pillars of livestock production: feed, water, air, pig care, which includes treatments and mortality. BinSentry gave us visibility into one of those pillars. And with that type of visibility, we're able to measure and then improve it. And we found some things we're probably a little less than proud of once we started getting the data. We anticipate in all those other areas we're going to find exactly the same thing once we're able to measure those. So I think as this technology expands into those other areas, we're going to be able to tie all that data together from those four pillars. And I think what it's going to allow us to do is not only improve, but be able to predict problems before they happen. So that way we can get proper interventions in place. And then they're going to help us measure the effectiveness of those interventions. was just going to do nothing but drive continuous improvement throughout our system. So I'm excited to see this expand into those other areas, and the reason, we've got 300 farms in Iowa spread over a quarter of a state. We don't have good control or visibility into that. This is really the first step in starting to get that.
And Ben, as you continue to innovate, how does BinSentry plan to address these broader challenges and further integrate its technology into the daily operations of producers?
That is the question for an ag tech company like us, and I really think about it as how do we support our customers? Our customers know more about their businesses and animal production than we ever will. And a bunch of my team just visited Jim and his team at their offices. Our chief technology officer and the product team and others showed up because they know what we need to do next for them to help them in their operation. And although not every company is identical at all, they all have some unique advantages. We know that 7 points of FCR creates an operating advantage. That creates a profitability and cash position advantage, quite frankly, for any of those businesses. And that's our job, is to create that advantage. And we work really hard to be close to the customer so they can tell us how to do that. It's kind of trite. It's easy to say. It's actually really hard to do, to get in there and support operational change as opposed to just slinging slides at people. But close relationships with customers that care deeply about what they do and have more experience with us at it. Our job is to come alongside and give them what they want and to do it quickly. And so that's what our engineering team and our product team tries to work on. We don't always get it perfect at all, but with close relationships with the customers, we certainly have a good opportunity to affect the operation and solve challenges when they put them on the table in front of us. And, as we move towards closing this conversation out, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been working with Hanor and Jim's team. Like they're experts at what they do. I used the word ninja earlier. I was just trying to sneak that in. I don't know why. It's fun to call Jim Moody a ninja, but it was fun, and we continue to have fun. And part of that's that you've got smart people working on hard problems and making progress. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're here for.
Well, Ben Allen, Jim Moody, keep up the great work. Thanks for sharing the research today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.